Hello everybody, happy Tuesday and thank you for being here. Appreciate all of you that are here as always. Hi Nikita, hope you're having a good evening. Our intention for this week. I'll go ahead and put that up so you can go ahead and see that if you haven't already. Remember that I always put it out on Sunday so that way you can see it yourself beforehand. Here in the United States, we're coming off of a long holiday weekend. If you are somebody that is lucky enough to have a long holiday weekend, I have spent more holidays than not, like, of my adult life working, so I absolutely understand those that don't get holidays or like extra days off, even the big major ones. So I understand and sympathize with all of those that don't, that's just another day. But coming off of the long Memorial Day holiday weekend, my daughter is getting a little older now. She's 7. So we have a 7 and almost 5-year-old. Lily's birthday is on this upcoming Saturday, so she's got her solar return coming up. But we're starting to get into those conversations more about what these holidays mean and what they stand for and things like that. So it's kind of cool because it makes me think a little bit deeper about it rather than just being the long holiday weekend that starts, kicks off summer here, like the meaning behind it. So yeah. So thank you all of you for being here. Here is the intention if you have not already seen it. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. Like I said, coming off of that long weekend, you may not have had a chance to look at it like you usually do ahead of time. So just take a moment to think about it. Take a moment to see what comes up. Maybe say the intention to yourself aloud or silently, whatever works well for you. And if you've already done that, it doesn't hurt to do it again. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. Always hope you get good things from what I have to say, but the best stuff, the best information comes from within you. So my hope is that not only is Tuesday night wonderful and lovely for you, but that the intention prompts you to think, prompts you to, contemplate, prompts you to ponder and just maybe think about something just that maybe you would not have otherwise. Maybe you would have, because it's all based off of the astrology and the energy that is around us. So it's very possible that these things might have already been in your realm, but it might be even just like a different way of looking at kind of like what you have going on and what's going on in your life. I'm also going to apologize because we have, cold, allergies, being outside with bonfires going in the backyard, or what it is exactly, but my voice is not at 100% tonight, and might try to keep this short. I say that and then it never ends up being short, so we'll see what happens. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. A couple things that go along with our intention this week. So we now have the Sun, Venus, and Jupiter all in the sign of Gemini. So now we're starting to have that shift from Taurus into Gemini. Mercury is still in the sign of Taurus, and it's coming into a conjunction with Uranus this week, so we will talk about that. But we have that shifting of energy from like that physical realm into the mental realm that we've been talking about. So my hope with the intention is kind of marrying the two in different ways this week as we start to get into this more mental and airy realm of Gemini. So we start off this week with we start off this week with a little bit of action of Mercury, okay? So Mercury comes into a sextile with Saturn, actually was yesterday, Monday, so coming off of that aspect right now. So Mercury sextiling Saturn, and then as Mercury leaves that sextile with Saturn, Mercury is going to start to come into a conjunction with with Uranus. So the sextile to Saturn is at 19 degrees of Taurus, 19 degrees of Pisces, and then the conjunction is at 24 degrees of Taurus. Okay, so you have from 19 to 24, there's only this 5-degree difference. So within a matter of days, Mercury is going to go from a sextile with Saturn into a conjunction with Uranus. And I think the two of them happening simultaneously, along with the other aspect that we're going to talk about later on this week, I think the simultaneous action of these two is really, really important. So you have this sextile between Mercury and Saturn. Might be a little bit more subtle. It might not be something that you necessarily notice, like we'll say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, today being Tuesday. So it might be a little more subtle, might be a little less noticeable, but some sort of interconnection of the mercurial realm, of the mind, the thoughts, and the perceptions, and these wider frameworks, processes, structures that are surrounding us. So maybe it's something like coming to a decision of something. These two planets working together cohesively. So Mercury, the mind, and then Saturn, some sort of like heavier, weightier thoughts coming together. So it could be structural, it could be framework, it could just be one of those things that, you just like, okay, we really have to deal with this now while we can, while it's a small thing before it becomes a big thing, like that type of thing too. But some sort of cohesiveness or some sort of interconnection between the mental realm, between Mercury, our thoughts, our perceptions, the way we perceive things, the way we carry things out, the way we communicate things, the way things are communicated to us, and Saturn, these heavier, weightier topics. And with Saturn being in the sign of Pisces, these weightier, watery type topics. So like our connections to other people, how we communicate with others, how we express our intuitive mind, and like the information that like comes to us, and how we process our thoughts and the way that we perceive things. So you have this nice like some sort of cohesiveness, like, but it might not always seem that way because it comes with like a little bit of work, a little bit of effort, a little bit of weightiness of some kind, something that you have to deal with. But if you deal with it, being that it's a sextile, it seems like most likely some sort of cohesiveness, interconnections, things coming together. So that's where we start off the week. So as Mercury has this somewhat serious conversation with Saturn, walks away from that conversation of, like, this is the way things are, maybe like this is the way things ought to be, or this is the way things should change, like very much that, like, there's not a gray area with Saturn, right? Like it's black or white, either it's this or it's that. Again, speaking broadly, because it plays out for lots of us in many different ways, but something within the mind, or communicating, like communicating something kind of punctual, like this is this, that type of thing. Mercury could also deal with like laying out. Mercury Saturn could be like laying out some sort of plans or some sort of blueprint. It could be like figuring out some sort of numbers, or some sort of patterns or correlations or things like that. Kind of like piecing the things together. So if that makes a little bit of sense to you, then that is Mercury and Saturn. And then as we come off of that interaction between the two, Mercury walks away from that like weightier, heavier conversation with Saturn, walks right into a conjunction with Uranus. So that planet of surprise, change, rebellion, liberating, breakthroughs, downloads, all of those like quick lightning speed change type things, okay? So we have the loftier we have the weightier energy in the beginning of the week. We have this like, things are this or things are that. We have this this Mercury Saturn conversation that I'm talking about. And then as we have kind of lay down like what's what and what should be, what is, what we want to be, like that type of thing, then Mercury comes into the conjunction with Uranus, where it's like, okay, I've laid out the blueprints, I've set out exactly where the dotted line is, like where the line is going to be drawn. Now it's time for me to actually draw those lines. Or like, if I've decided I'm on this side of the line, but I need to be on that side of the line, now is the moment to step over the line. So, yeah, it's this really cool, like, progress here for Mercury, okay? Of starting with something a little bit heavier, maybe something that kind of like holds you in space a little bit, like pulls you down and makes you kind of like, no, stay here, we're not quite ready to leave yet, we're gonna stay here, and then okay, blast off. Mercury, Uranus come together, and it's like, okay, so take this thing that came about early in the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and now let's expand that into something that, like, is even better than we ever expected it to be, type of thing, right? So, like, maybe if it's that thing where, excuse me, if it's that thing where, like, you know, like, this is what has been happening, but this is what we need to have happen. Like if you have that kind of conversation with somebody, then towards the end of the week, it's like, okay, we already know that this isn't working and this is what we need to move towards. So let's move towards the thing. So it kind of gives you that courage and that bravery to go ahead and move forward to it there. Really, really, really cool energy coming through for Mercury this week. And then on Saturday, Venus conjoins the Sun in the sign of Gemini, which is Mercury's sign. So Mercury has a whole lot going on to be hosting and taking care of, in a way, this conjunction that we have between the Sun and Venus. Okay? So Mercury has its own changes going on in the sign of Taurus. Mercury coming into conjunction with Uranus really just kind of lights up that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we've been talking about for the last several weeks. Every time we keep coming across those early 20 degrees of Taurus, it just reactivates that, and all these planets keep hitting Uranus right there within that same range that Jupiter came across Uranus. So, perhaps something pertaining to how Jupiter and Uranus is showing up within your own life. You've had some sort of like weightiness or like conversation that you had to take care of with Mercury and Saturn, and now able to go forward with it and to do one of the things, do something like that. Yeah. So then we have the conjunction between Venus and the Sun. We've talked about before that anytime a planet comes into a conjunction with the Sun, it starts a new, really anytime any two planets come into a conjunction. So even Mercury and Uranus here. Anytime that you have two planets that come into a conjunction together, it starts a new cycle for those two planets. So every time a planet comes into a conjunction with the Sun, it starts its annual synodic cycle. So this is going to be a new cycle for Venus that's going to take us through the next year here. So you have this like rebirth and this like renewal of Venus, or like this next chapter of Venus. I kind of like that more than rebirth or renewal, because it's not a rebirth makes me think of more like what has been being final, where like the next chapter in a book, like you absolutely need, like if you're moving into chapter 19 of the book, you absolutely need chapters 1 through 18 in order to know what's going on in chapter 19, if that makes sense. Context is everything, and that's definitely the case in our lives. So Sun and Venus coming together, they're going to stay together for 3 days. Saturday, Sunday, Monday of this upcoming weekend, so June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, they're going to be sitting on the same degree as each other. They're going to be within 3 degrees of each other until the 13th of June. So we have this long range where Venus is starting a new chapter in her book. So it's almost like which includes a new moon that we have coming up here in the sign of Gemini. Next week we'll be talking about that. It's a really cool new moon that we have coming up. So you have some sort of turning the page or next chapter starting of the harmony of life, the harmony and the purpose, the vitality, the power that we have within our life, all of these very illuminating qualities tied in with Venusian themes. So love, beauty, aesthetics, women, enjoyment, pleasure, all of the things that we enjoy, okay? Overarching, like, joyous and harmonious things. All of those things are Venusian things, as well as, like, feminine presences in our lives, because Venus is the feminine planet. So it's like you have this new beginning of Venusian things in the sign of Gemini going on this week, or the leading up to it at least. Really, it's a couple-week process. Where maybe the things that we enjoy, the things that bring us harmony, the things that bring us balance and bring us love and peace and pleasure, maybe, like, it's not to say that that's all bad or not working in our life, but, like, maybe we start to feel the desire to bring something new in, or maybe we need to let go of something to make room for something else, or maybe there's something Venusian that is kind of calling to us in some sort of way. So you have this new start of Venusian things, really. The sun illuminates it. The sun brings in our own soul purpose, it brings in our own power, it brings in our own vitality and our own life force, the prana that is within all of us. It's really really can be a quite, like, empowering moment to go out and do something enjoyable. And since it's the conjunction, the starting of the new synodic cycle, it's something that could bring us enjoyment, fulfillment for some time to come, or at least be, maybe an important part in, like, the context of the next chapter type of thing. So we're working towards this conjunction. We're in the applying phase all of this week. Like I said, the planets are going to sit together, and then they're going to be really close together. So it's like really almost like a 2-week process that we have the Sun and Venus coming together, where it's like, I want to create something enjoyable, damn it. Like, I want to feel fulfilled in some sort of way. And those new things might start popping up for some of us. That conjunction, Sun and Venus, is hosted or ruled or informed by, I don't like ruled, I like hosted or informed by Mercury in the sign of Taurus, that has all of this going on. So while Venus is in its own resetting period, Mercury is kind of going through its own resetting period, but instead of with the Sun, with Uranus. Mercury is looking at Saturnian type things this week, early this week, saying, like, what is working, what isn't working. And then Mercury is going to be coming into contact with Uranus, be like, okay, this is working, this isn't working, but this right here is what I want to replace what isn't working with, like that type of thing. And all of that is really playing into this conjunction that we have, since Mercury rules the sign of Gemini. So since that conjunction of Venus and the Sun is in the sign of Gemini, all of that mercurial energy that's going on in the sign of Taurus is playing a factor in what's going on in Gemini. Gemini is an air element. Taurus is an earth element. Taurus, especially like Venusian Taurus, there is a focus on the physical world. There is a focus on the body and that which brings us physical pleasure, like sensual type pleasure, appealing to all the different senses. And so you have Gemini, mind, Taurus, earth, physical, and these two planets, with Mercury being in Taurus, which is Venus's sign, and Venus being in Gemini, which is Mercury's sign, they are in each other's sign. They have a mutual reception going on right now. So we've talked about this before. I mentioned it in passing last week. But these two planets are working together. We've talked about this before with other planets where it's kind of like Venus has the tools that Gemini needs, and Gemini has the tools that Venus needs because they are in each other's own homes or own places with like each other's belongings type of thing. So it's like, I don't know, Venus needs a specific tool out of her purse, but Mercury is holding on to her purse or holding on to her bag. So Mercury's like, oh, here, is this what you said you needed? Here you go. I'll lend it. I'll hand it over to you. Thank you for letting me use it while I was in the sign of Taurus type of thing. So this connection between mind and body is here on many, many levels. The mutual reception of Mercury and Venus being in each other's signs, a air sign dealing with the mental or the mind, and a earth sign that deals with the physical, or more specifically the body. They're working together this week. Mind and body connections, the synodic cycle for Venus, the new resetting for Venus, which Venus representing that which brings us pleasure and appeals to the different senses in many, many different ways. That physical world, things that connect to our body, things that connect to the senses, connect to our body, right? And a place of the mind, of the mental realm. So there's this harmonious connection between Venus being a planet that appeals to the senses and the mind, Gemini. So there's these connections that are emerging. Connecting the mind and body in many, many different ways that we have this week. And then there's a lot going on here this week. The last part is that as soon as Jupiter entered the sign of Gemini, I mentioned this last week too, but Jupiter entered a trine with Pluto. That also takes us right around, as far as like being within a 3-degree range, that also takes us through into almost clear into the middle of June. So trines are of the nature of the same element, okay? So we have Jupiter in Gemini trining Pluto in Aquarius. So we have a trine through the realm of air, pulling together Gemini and Aquarius, and excuse me, losing my voice. We'll see how far we get into a meditation this week. Not really sure how far we're going to get. Anyways, Jupiter trining Pluto. We know that Pluto transforms and changes things on a very, very deep level, right? So it seems to me that there could be some sort of transformation or some sort of deep unearthing of Jupiter type things. So Jupiter in air Gemini type things more specifically. So changes within the mental realm, changes more specifically of like beliefs and philosophies and like the different structures and overarching ideals that we participate in. Maybe something to deal with education or learning. Something to do with, as far as those overarching systems, it could have something to do with like rule of law or the government or the judicial system, something like that. This is kind of a couple week transit that we have, but when I was looking at our intention earlier today, again, I chuckled a little bit because I looked at the first word and the last word, harmonious and emerge. So I thought harmonious and maybe like emergence. So like things that are emerging harmoniously. That sounds like Jupiter trining Pluto to me. Things that are coming up, things that are being unearthed in some ways, things that are being pulled from the shadows, or like you can't shut the door and keep the closet closed anymore type of thing. they're coming up, and they're coming up in a way to start to be able to work together, to pull themselves together. Like maybe if there was something that felt like it was just out of reach, maybe it feels like now those pieces are like slowly starting to come together some way, somehow for you. But it really is, as far as this week goes, it feels like it just kind of adds that little extra drama to what we have going on. Because really, you know, we said this at some point too. I mean, lots of people, lots of astrologers have said it, not just myself, but like there is all of this huge opening that has been happening like through April and May and coming into June, starting really with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we had April 20th. It really just feels like it's just blown things open for lots of people. You know, sometimes when things are blown open, sometimes it's not always like the easiest, because sometimes when like new things come in, that just inevitably other things have to flow out. But abundance replaces a lot of things that, like, as things, old things that no longer serve us move away from us, it makes room for new abundances and new blessings to come in, right? Like, we all know that, but it helps to hear it sometimes too, hear it a little bit more often. So, yeah, this week, harmonious mind and body connections emerge, bringing together your mind, your thoughts, the way you communicate, and your actions in your physical body, balancing the two of them. And, you know, I think this conjunction that we have, the Venus-Sun conjunction, can feel very inspiring. It can feel very liberating. It can feel very like turning point type transformational. And then the action that Mercury has going on at the same time feels very like mentally transforming. While the transformation is happening in the sign of Gemini with Venus, Venus that applies, you know, often to the five senses that we have, and it seems like maybe we're at a point in like this opening where the universe is telling us like, okay, all of this opening can happen and you can have like these new things coming in, but there has to be, like, all the pieces have to come together. All the parts, all the pieces, the mind and the body have to come together. Like, the mind can't be going one direction and the body's going in another direction. That never works, right? That's how we end up like mixed up and not getting anything accomplished. So like the mind and the body have to be working well together. So I like what we have going on here. It feels very, very exciting. It feels very like futuristically possible, right? Like, it feels like there could be some new things coming. That's not always positive. Sometimes new things coming can be scary or uneasy, or, you know, whatever it is. But hopefully there's something that you can like look forward to, or you can see, like, if I get through all of this, you know, even though I don't really want to let go of this type of thing, like this part is a good thing. And that could be the Mercury Saturn too, of just that, like, I don't necessarily want to have to make this decision, but I know that I have to make this decision. So a couple cards, but want to take a peek at the comments here quick, because I know there's a couple since I've looked. Nikita, Melissa, Rob, thank you guys for being here. Intuition giving messages and downloads. Yes, I love that. Good to see you here, Rob. Yeah, and there's a lineup of planets coming up through this weekend into early next week. Lots of graphics on that online that you can see. So I'm glad that it happens on a special day for you too, Melissa. Yes. It's a special weekend for me because, like I said, it's Lily's birthday. She's turning 5. My little Gemini is turning 5, milestone. Anyways, so yes, there's all of these different connections between mind and body, um, in the way that I see this. Again, we can come up with lots of different intentions. We could go different ways with it because astrology plays out different ways, but this is how it comes across to me. And lots of connections between earth and air, lots of connections between air and air, lots of thoughts. I feel like lots of people are probably starting to have lots of thoughts or lots of different things going through their mind. We said that last week or the week before. Somewhere in there we said that if it's felt a little stagnant or a little slow or a little sluggish in the sign of Taurus, as things start to move to Gemini, those things are going to really kind of amp up. So the cards that I pulled for this week, let me just get my little note screen out of the way here so that way I can see when it's actually in focus here. And yeah, so I did not pull any cards out of my Oracle deck today, which is different than it has been the last couple weeks. You all know that I have a few different decks, but I've been using this Oracle deck and then my go-to tarot card deck for the last few weeks, and we've been sharing cards from both. So I did not pull any from this yet. What I ended up with was 2 tarot cards. Actually, what I've been doing is my process has been an Oracle card and then a tarot card the last little bit. I've just really been pulled to this Oracle deck that I have. And something said, no, you need to go to the tarot cards. You need to pull out your purple deck first. And it was not very long after I started shuffling that Justice card popped out. Justice. Balancing, leveling, some sort of reordering or disbursement. And this makes me think of that mind-body connection that we're talking about, and like how I said that, you know, like the mind can't go one way while the body goes the other way. Like they have to be, like ideally our mind and body are working cohesively together and they're in tune with each other, right? Like that's the ideal. And within this balancing or this like almost like a reordering of disbursement, like the way things are shared and the way things are dispersed to make them more level rather than like a lot over here and not so much over here. So when we're thinking of the mind and body connection, it makes me think of like maybe one has been more in control than the other. Like maybe our mind has been ruling over our body. Maybe our mind has been ruling over our physical actions, like those, what we are and are not taking, or like what we are or are not enjoying, that type of thing. Or the other way around, where like our body is ruling our mind, and like our body and our physical pleasure and our physical senses are fully like overriding our mental processes and our own clarity somehow. So harmonious mind and body connections emerge. I think the Justice card here is telling us that there needs to be a leveling of somehow. Like we can't be all Taurus or we can't be all Gemini. In fact, all of us have all 12 signs in our birth chart somewhere in some life topic. So it's finding balance, and maybe, you know, maybe like if in the sign of Taurus things have been kind of slow and kind of sluggish and maybe not moving super fast, maybe we get to the sign of Gemini and we feel like super hyped up and super amped up somehow, and then we just like blast forward. We're like, before we weren't going fast enough, but now we're going too fast. So you got to find that medium to not be burnt out somehow. So if that hopefully that makes sense and resonates with you somehow. And then I wanted a follow-up card from the tarot deck, and what we had come up, which I thought was fitting to follow up with the Justice card, is the 8 of Cups. So we have the octopus holding 8 cups, cups representing water. You know, the 8 always makes me think of like cycles. And we're always riding the cycles up and down, right? Like it's a roller coaster that just keeps going, and sometimes you're on the bottom, sometimes you're on the top, sometimes you're in the middle, sometimes you're not even sure if you're going up or if you're going down, but you're going. Like the 8 makes me think of the ending of one thing and the beginning of another. And like I said, like new beginnings can be scary because it's not always, like usually things are a mixed bag. So usually like if there's something that we have to kind of move away from, I mean, sometimes it's like something totally disservant and something totally negative and something that is totally bad. My hope is it's not normally that situation. Hopefully it's normally more like, I want to move towards something a little bit more better, a little bit more productive, something that can help me more, something that can help others, something that is just more conducive to whatever the thing is. And the 8 makes me think of contemplating those cycles, contemplating those beginnings and those endings, and kind of being in between of like a place of, it's almost like Mercury and Saturn coming together, like a place of thinking, a place of consideration, a place of considering what has worked and what hasn't worked. You know, in the standard Rider-Waite, the 8 of Cups, one of the cups are displaced from the other cups, so it almost looks like something's missing. So like if something is full and complete, like we're probably not going to change it, right? If things are like exactly as they should be, then we're probably going to keep things status quo and we're probably not going to try to change them. But if there's like one little piece that feels like it's not quite right or not quite, that might be missing, or maybe it's not quite in the right place, then it gets our attention more, and then we focus on that thing. And yeah, so I think what these 2 cards are saying are slow down, think, consider all parts, and make sure things are balanced and level. And I feel like that fits with our intention of harmonious mind and body connections emerge. Our intentions are usually very like putting it into practice, like speaking it into existence. So the emergence of this connection of the justice and of the balance of the mind and body, coming together, connecting together, but as well as like connecting us to our environment, connecting us to others. That's the 8 of Cups, is the environment, that collective energy, and that even that like emotional authority that we have within us. So the way we connect to ourselves and connect to others, it's through our mind and through our body, right? That's how we connect to people. We give hugs, we give handshakes, we wave hi, we speak we speak words that come from our mind. We writing is a very mercurial thing. We write letters, or now we type emails or type messages or text messages to people. We don't even really call them on the phone anymore. But now even like calling people on the phone has been replaced by like video chat, right? So we hold a camera or a phone or whatever in front of us, and we talk to somebody where they can hear us, hear what we're saying, and you know, like visually see us as well. So like that mind and body connection that connects us to not only to ourselves but to others. And I think it's really a really cool thing coming into this Sun-Venus conjunction that we have. This, you know, the conjunction is a moment of empowerment for the planet. It's a moment of strength. It's a moment of declaration and like declaring the next journey that it's on, or that turning the page to that next chapter. Right before that moment of that like embracing moment, you have some time where that planet is kind of overshadowed by the sun, so it may feel like the Venusian things like have not been fully fulfilled to you in some way, like you've had to work for them or something, maybe here in just the last little bit, like the last week or so. But we're coming to that moment of empowerment and that moment of recreating, that moment of stepping into the next chapter, and that just means a brand new page to write a brand new story on, or at least the next section. Excuse me, guys. Melissa, you pulled the Queen of Cups, so you pulled the Cups card too. I love when we resonate right on top of each other. So I think there's some really cool energy here this week, moments of new beginnings, no moments of, you know, the moon is waning right now too. So we're coming from the full moon towards the new moon. So the moon is darkening. So it's like there could be, that goes back to, there could be things that we're kind of letting go of or moving away from, but then that brings in the question of what are we moving towards? We're moving towards that new Venus sun cycle. What are we moving away from? Maybe the things that Mercury Saturn has told us, you know, these things don't serve you very well. You know, what else could we maybe replace this with, or what could we start to change or mold this into somehow? I think it's a great opportunity to connect not only with ourselves, but to connect with others. And yeah, it's just something that a lot of us could use more moments of probably every week. Like, I think having an intention of a mind and body connection at all times is not a bad thing, right? Like that sounds like a good thing. So yeah, that's what I have to say as far as the astrology for this week and what's going on. A lot of really cool energy here of like creating and letting go and connecting and, you know, mental realm, physical realm, all of the different things. And let's get into our meditation. So pull down my notes. One last look at that intention if you need to. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. If you know your birth chart, think about where Gemini is in your chart. Think about the topics that rule that house, if you know them. If not, that's okay. There's a new beginning there. So if you have the ability to look at your chart, lots of free websites that are out there that you can get them on. If you had your birth data, you could send it to me, and I could also send you your birth chart, but it would be honestly a lot quicker just to go to astro.com. But if it seems a little confusing to you for some reason, I can totally get you your birth chart. That's super easy to do. Just need all your birth data. But the whole sign house where Gemini is in your chart is, as well as Taurus, is getting a new start, is getting a fresh chance and a fresh opportunity of some kind, and a fresh breath of air some way. So that is lovely to think of and to consider when you think of like everything that has been going on. And guarantee that if you look at what houses that is, the topics of that house and like a breath of fresh air in those topics will make you smile and make you want to be like, yeah, I could use a breath of fresh air here in that area. So, all right, I have talked for a really long time, and I'm sorry about that, but this is just, it's really exciting, guys. This is cool. It could be a little challenging, could be a little cathartic, could be a little bit like you know, soul level dilemma possibly, but others it won't be, and that's just the way it goes. So we have a white candle as always, white for purity, clarity, and amplification. White may be extra special for connecting and pulling together the mind and the body, because you can take a white light and it unifies and it solidifies things. So we will get ready to light our intentional candle, and as I light the candle, I encourage you to say the intention either aloud or silently in your own head as we do so, and focus on that intention as the candle lights and as you see the flame grow. So Bring the flame to the candle. Candle ignites. We see the flame grow, and as we watch the flame grow, so does our intention. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. Harmonious mind and body connections emerge. I encourage you, as always, to take just a moment to check in with your breath and just make some space for that level of energy that you came here with today. Always, always valid that all of your experiences of the day, all of the events of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year, of your life have led you to this point. Sometimes those things take a toll on our mind and our body, sometimes on our breath. So not judging or condoning or celebrating, for that matter, the level or the quality of our breath, but just making space for where you are right now. Wherever you fall on that spectrum of positive, negative, good, bad, acceptable, not acceptable. Here, as you start to connect to your breath, as you start to make space to recognize your breath, you are already seeing the emergence of mind and body connections. As soon as we come to our space of meditation, as soon as we come to our space of contemplation, we come to a place of stillness with our physical body, and we tap into our mind and our mental realm on some level. Once you've taken a moment to check in with your breath, let's start to deepen the inhale and deepen the exhale. Here, our goal, as always, is to just make each inhale slightly deeper than the one before it. Meanwhile, each exhale releases slightly more air from our body than the one before it. Elongating the inhale and the exhale. Taking a moment to notice the physical changes that happen within our body through the inhale and the exhale. As you breathe in, you may notice that your abdomen starts to distend as your navel moves away from your spine. Diaphragm lowers down, extending space for your lungs to fill up with air. You may notice a fullness that you feel within your abdomen and within your chest. You may notice any sensations in your extremities, in your arms and your legs, in your hands and your feet, your fingertips and your toes. And as you exhale and release on your own time, you start to notice that your abdomen deflates as your navel moves back towards the spine. Diaphragm moving back up into a neutral position as your lungs fully deflate, releasing all that they were holding before. Continuing the process, continuing the cycle. The next inhale, noticing these changes and any other sensations that you feel as you inhale. Perhaps you notice the air entering your nostrils or your mouth. Perhaps you feel that air cooling your throat as it moves down towards your lungs. Perhaps you feel the expansion on the exhale. Perhaps you feel the release and the surrender of not only the oxygen from within your lungs, but also just of some sort of weight that you've been holding within you. It can be a big one, it can be a small one. Continuing the process of breathing in and breathing out. Making space for awareness of what comes in and what goes out. As you continue breathing in and out, I want you to begin to visualize yourself, feel yourself from a first person view, not from the side, from a third person view. I want you to feel yourself sitting against a big, tall, strong tree. Whether you are not somebody that would normally sit out under a tree in nature, that's exactly where you are right now. You feel the lush grass beneath you and all around you. You feel the stability of the tree behind you, solid and firm as you lay your back against it. Perhaps you feel a light breeze coming across your face, removing any stagnation from the air. The temperature is pleasant and preferable for you. The view and the sights are relaxing and calming. And here, as you find this place of physical relaxation, I prompt you with a question. What have you been thinking about? Not just today, not just yesterday, not just the day before that. What has been occupying your mind and your thoughts? Not judging positive or negative, not judging good or bad. What has been within your mental awareness more than anything else? Chances are something came right to mind. And now I want you to take this thing, whether it's good or bad, whether it's favorable or unfavorable, this thought, this thing, this idea, whatever this thought is that's been consuming you. And I want you to visualize the best possible outcome for those thoughts that have been consuming you. And maybe it's not a situation or a person or anything that actually gets resolved. But if it's something that's been consuming your mind and been within your awareness, then there's some level to deal with it, to handle it, to address it. So what could you do? What is the best possible outcome? What is the process? What is the next step for this thing that has been occupying your mind? Once you have your answer, or your end result, or your next step, I want you to take that visualization and see this big, beautiful tree that's behind you, and see your visualization, your manifestation that you have of what has been consuming your mind. And I want you to take that visualization and you give it to the tree. Whether it sounds silly or not, you give it to the tree. And you now see this visualization physically move towards the branches and the leaves of the tree that's behind you. This is a big, huge, sturdy, old tree that's behind you. And the green coverage is wide and vast. At first, you see your visualization on the outside of the greenery of the tree, almost as if it's a projection screen of some kind. Then you slowly see that visualization slowly start to disappear as the tree absorbs your visualization. The next step, the resolution. Where do we go from here? If one thing is consuming our mind, it's difficult to make room for another. And as the tree happily and lovingly absorbs your visualization of what has been taking up so much space within your mind, it pulls it down towards its tree trunk, towards the roots, and it moves into the earth. And as it moves into the earth, you feel your visualization being reabsorbed from the ground that you are touching back into your body. As it comes back into you, it comes in a positive, uplifting, empowered, enthusiastic form, to where you truly do feel empowered to address, go forward with, take the action, whatever it is that you need to do or process. You feel a connection to not only your mind, to your body, but to the earth that is around you. And you feel ready to move forward in whatever way works for you. That positivity, that empowerment, that love and support that this tree just provided you is something that you can call on at any time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I appreciate you more than you know. I hope that you can find some sort of your own mind and body connection this week. However that works for you. However you find that peace and tranquility and equal disbursement. However you feel that you can level your mind and your body. I hope you find that this week. Thank you all of you for being here. Thank you all. Thank you, Nikita, and our viewer from YouTube. Namaste. Thank you for being here. As always, I appreciate those of you that come in any capacity, whether it's here physically on Tuesday nights, we're here every week, whether it's watching the replay, whether it's supporting on social media, liking and following the social media pages, liking and following the posts, it all helps. So thank you all for being here, and I appreciate you. I think there's some really, really cool stuff this week. If the beginning of the week feels heavy, the later part of the week might feel like you're able to release some of that a little bit. Feels like we've really been building towards something with our intentions that we've had lately. So yeah, I appreciate all of you. I think I've said that a bunch of times. So thank you. Take a look next Sunday for the intention for next week. We have a couple more weeks that we are going to be here, and then we are going to have 1 week that we have off. So that will be shared and spread widely. There will still be an intention that week, but there is one Tuesday in a few weeks from now that I will not be here because I will be on vacation with my family and probably will not have signal. So thank you, all of you, again, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Feel free to reach out at any time. So, yeah. Have a great rest of your week.